So the E20 ethanol blending problem has become so big that we're having to do fresh videos every other day because of all the information that's coming out right now. You remember a couple of days ago, in a completely extraordinary move, the Petroleum Ministry bureaucrats held an emergency style press conference where they lined up automobile manufacturers, everybody from Hero Motorcorp to TVS to Toyota, Maruti Suzuki. They all sat in a row and assured the public that the fuel you were receiving at the petrol pump is actually safe. Now, while that itself was unusual, 2 days later, we find out that the government is deciding to slow down or delay the rollout of E25, which is the next step of their move. So, if E20 is so safe and you're assuring us that it's safe, why are you delaying E25? Could it be because of the immense criticism and unhappiness you're receiving from the general public for E20 as a rollout at all? So, in this video, we're actually going to put together all of the latest information. There's new research that has come out, there's a new poll, there's a new case in Supreme Court, and there are conversations with petrol dealers that you must know. And then we'll take a look at where you stand. And it's not just about blending ethanol with petrol right now, it's about having choices in a democracy as a citizen. So all of that is in this video. But before we get to it, remember, please like, share this video with whoever you think will find it useful. Subscribe to our channel to find out when we upload a video immediately. Click on that bell icon and sign up for our membership. You'll find it on the home screen of our page. If you sign up for the lowest tier of our membership, you'll get our news bulletin every day where we will tell you all of the news of the day without any of the drama. Okay, so this is everything that has happened in the last couple of days when it comes to E20. If you own a car or a motorcycle or any sort of vehicle in this country, this is information that you need to be paying close attention to. On the 4th of July, the Petroleum Ministry, senior representatives, and the automobile industry and energy experts held a joint press conference to respond to growing criticism. Now, this came after weeks and weeks of complaints from citizens and motorists, criticism on social media, questions being raised in Supreme Court, scrutiny on the impact of E20 petrol on older vehicles, on consumer costs, and fuel efficiency. Now, did the press conference really set aside our fears? Not really. The press conference relied much more on assertions and summaries of evidence rather than releasing any new, any new independent research. Now, this is who sat in that press conference, right? Toyota Kirloskar's Vikram Gulati, Maruti Suzuki's Rakul Bharti, Hero Motorcorp's Ashutosh Verma, TVS Motors, Prasad Krishna. There were others also there. Throughout the briefing, the speakers repeatedly stressed that E20 was introduced only after extensive scientific evaluation, that consultation with vehicle manufacturers, testing by various agencies, the Automobile Research Association of India, the Society of Automobile Association. So they kept telling us that we've done a lot of research, but they didn't give us the actual research. Now, officials also sought to reassure customers that all vehicles manufactured after 1st April 2023 are fully compatible, and extensive testing has not revealed any significant concerns for older vehicles which were designed for E20 petrol. And the government's decision to hold that joint press conference in my opinion, reflected the fact that they are responding to the backlash that they have received already. But very interestingly, rather than leaving the Petroleum Ministry to defend its policy on its own, it sought the help of automobile manufacturers and technical experts. So they effectively said that E20 was rolled out only after years of scientific testing. They said that they had carried out laboratory and field testing and analyzed millions of kilometers of service data. They argued that there is no widespread engine failure being reported, and fuel economy, which is something that they have all acknowledged, fuel economy loss is about 2 to 4% instead of the larger figures that are circulating on social media. What the press conference did not do, it did not publish any of the technical reports that it's talking about, specifically the ARAI report. It did not release. It did not release any raw testing or methodology data. It didn't provide any service records or warranty claims. It didn't share any peer-reviewed statistics or studies, and it did not detail how non-E20 vehicles were being tested or how they can be adapted. So that is where that large gap got created and where the criticism started to build again. So journalists, consumer groups, one petition in the Supreme Court, all asking for greater transparency, arguing that the government is asking millions of motorists to trust the science, but the science itself has not been provided. Now, if you don't know the E20 issue at all, I'm going to give you the 30-second breakdown. E20 is 80% petrol and 20% ethanol. Ethanol is derived from sugarcane and maize and other sort of agriculture products. And ethanol is created, blended, and put in your car. We started off in India at E5, which is 5% ethanol, 10, and now 15, and then we've gone up to 20. What has happened is there's been criticism, large scale, people saying that there's not enough information about the blend and its impact on cars, because there are a lot of people who are saying their cars are breaking down. Portions of their cars are actually getting corroded or rusting out. They're saying older models, so anything bought before 2023, a petrol model bought before 2023 is actually is suffering more. And there's finally, and this is the biggest criticism, there is no choice at the petrol pump. You can't roll up to a petrol pump and say, I want 100% petrol, I'm willing to pay for it. That choice does not exist at all. If at all, it's very, very rare. So information and choice is what people are asking for. Tell me how this affects my car, and then let me choose whether or not I want into it. Standard democracy stuff. And standard democracy stuff will wind up in the Supreme Court, which is where it has gone. There is a petition that has been filed before the Supreme Court asking state-run oil marketing companies to display the percentage of ethanol blending in every fuel dispensing nozzle across the country and to disclose that percentage on fuel bills. Now, I come back to the petrol pump issue a little later, but this is what that public interest litigation says. It says vehicle-wise compatibility database must be released. So I should know that if I have this kind of model vehicle, I have a Maruti Wagon R that I bought in such and such year, what kind of fuel am I compatible with and what should I be buying? It also said the state may encourage and incentivize ethanol blending, but it cannot compel citizens to expose their vehicles to possible risk. It argues that it wants a constitution of expert committee with representatives of Petroleum Ministry, Road Ministry, consumer bodies, and so on, in order to give out the information that we need, including environment experts, public health experts, water resource experts, fuel efficiency, energy longevity, water use concerns, food security. These are all issues around the ethanol mix, and you can take a look at our previous 2 episodes where we have explained this threadbare. The petitioner is an advocate called Narendra Kumar Goswami. He says he's not asking for a rollback of E20 or ethanol blending. He is asking basically that the amount of information be shared with the citizen. The PIL is also seeking protection against denial of warranty, insurance, and service benefits that consumers are likely to face if they're using blended fuel. The government has been actively promoting ethanol blended fossil fuels to reduce dependency on crude. Now, this is effectively what this petition is saying. Give us the information based on what we're buying. So that nozzle needs to say this much is petrol, this much is ethanol. The bill needs to say what I have bought. There needs to be a database to tell me what my car is compatible with based on the year and the model that I have bought. There needs to be an expert committee looking at all of this, including what is the impact on the environment, what is the impact on water, what is the impact on food security, and what is the impact on our cars. It seems completely fair. Although the petition has been filed in the Supreme Court, it has not been listed for hearing yet. As of today, no notice has been sent to the center or the oil marketing companies, and the court has not passed any order. But it does seem like a very rational ask from a citizen of this country before the Supreme Court, because the government has rolled all of this out without any of the things that has been listed in this petition. Now, this is another article that's come out in the Times of India, and we pop that up on your screen. And this is really important because when that press conference was held, there was a lot of reference to the Automotive Research Association of India study. The study itself was not made public. The Times of India, and I'm quoting the Times of India because we don't have any other source, has put out this story today that says that E20 petrol can gradually degrade the rubber fuel parts like hoses, gaskets, seals, and O-rings in vehicles that were built only for E10. This study is unpublished, has been referenced, but it has been referenced by the government and by automakers in that press conference. And now it has been published in the Times of India. So we haven't seen the original study because, like I told you, the government has not shared it with us. The study flagged that the parts might need replacement after extended exposure. Metallic parts are unaffected across all vehicles tested. Emissions stay within legal limits. Engine durability results in four-wheelers were mixed. One manufacturer's engines ran without issues for 400 hours of testing. Another manufacturer's engine's exhaust valve failed after 809 hours. BS6 turbocharged engine showed issues after 265 hours. The TY also reported that people familiar with the findings have said factors unrelated to E20 could also have contributed to those failures. Two-wheeler tested by 3 manufacturers showed no problems at all by E20 fuel. Fuel consumption in E20 was 2 to 6% higher than E10, which is attributed to ethanol's lower calorific value. So basically, people have been complaining that I'm putting 1 liter in my vehicle, but I'm getting far lower mileage. It's because, putting it simply, ethanol has fewer calories than petrol, so it burns out faster. Government has maintained that E20 does not affect the drivability, the metal or plastic components. It acknowledges that rubber parts of older vehicles may need some replacement. Now, this is the latest information that has come out, and this is key information if you have a vehicle, a car specifically, that you bought that is E10 compliant and not E20 compliant. Now, there's a new survey that's been reported by the Mint that has come out that's really important. This one is Local Circles that has done a survey. And according to Local Circles, apparently, 53% of the petrol vehicle owners listed the government's handling of E20 rollout as either disastrous or ineffective. Of that group, 42% said it was disastrous. In comparison, only 13% felt that the rollout had a positive rating. Now, the survey also found that 66% of those who own petrol vehicles in India that were bought before 2023 felt that their fuel efficiency had dropped 10%. 45% have said that they have experienced a significant increase in requirements of maintenance, engine repair, and repair costs. Now, it's also notable to say that a third of those respondents said they would prefer to either have the option of buying E0, which means no blending at all, or E10 petrol again, even if they have to pay more than what the E20 price is right now. And I think that these voices are really important, and maybe it's something that the government is listening to. Another set of voices that were very quiet up until now started to speak up today. And this is Petrol Dealers Association. There was a story that came out today that said the Petrol Dealers Association in Odisha, only in Odisha, have said that they are requesting the government to roll back E20 completely. Now, they have said, and they represent owners of petrol pumps in Odisha, they have urged the government to reconsider the introduction of E20, saying fuel dealers are facing significant difficulties following the rollout. The president, who is Shashank Shekhar Sahu, has said that he said to the media that while ethanol blending was capped at 10% in most countries, in India, we've done a 20%. He claimed vehicles currently available in India are not compatible with E20. BS6 vehicles were not originally designed to handle the blend. He went on to say the incompatibility has led to issues like clogged carburetors and other mechanical failures. He said customers often confront petrol pump operators over these problems, even though dealers have no control over the situation. Now, that actually made me ask a question as to why petrol pump dealers across the rest of the country are so quiet. So in Mumbai, we started making some calls with dealers, with dealer associations, asking them to speak to us and say, hey, can you tell us what is going on? Incidentally, most of them said that they did not want to come on record, which I thought was really interesting. A couple of them agreed to speak to me off record, and I have some input from the conversations that I've had, but I've been asked not to share their names. Now, here's the thing that I found interesting about the ones who spoke to me off record. They told me they've been instructed not to speak to the press about these issues. One, according to these dealers, almost all the petrol that's available in petrol pumps right now is ethanol blended. There are very few premium brands which, I was told in the state of Maharashtra, in single-digit petrol stations, you'll get a premium brand that will be 100% petrol. Everything else is blended. They also said the terminology has been quietly changed. Until recently, it was called E5, E10, E15, and E20. But now, when the fuel comes from the oil marketing companies to the petrol pump, it's simply marked as ethanol blended motor spirit. So it's marked EBMS. So technically, even they don't know how much of that is ethanol, how much of that is petrol, because it's not marked even for their benefit anymore. Dealers say they're not often informed about the exact percentage. Several claimed that they've raised concerns with oil marketing companies, but they've received little or no response. They've argued that ethanol's tendency, and here's the interesting thing: they said, one of them said, "Ma'am, you're talking about what happens to cars. Do you know what's happening to us?" He said, "We have these huge tanks that are underground inside of our petrol pumps." And they're not compatible with E20. He said they're underground tanks, and we fill them with, say, 10,000 liters of fuel. And what the nature of ethanol blended petrol is that if there's any water, especially in the rainy season, that leaks into the tank, apparently, the ethanol separates from the petrol and merges with the water and nearly turns into water. So that you have a separation of water and ethanol. And they have to pump that out because it's no longer useful. So 20% of what they have bought and paid money for is completely wasted. There's another angle to that problem, is that they don't know where to dump that, extraction. They're saying they've not received information on where to dump it. And so quietly, some of them are dumping it in gutters. Some of them are dumping it in drains. Some of them are dumping it in farmland outside of the cities. And they acknowledge that this will be a hazard in terms of pollution. And that's a massive problem as well. And they've said at one point, one of them said, "I put out a notice at our petrol pump that said this is the kind of blended fuel that's available here." And they received a call from the oil marketing company saying to remove that notice and not put anything out. So again, I want to point out that these are conversations that we've had with individual petrol dealers. The association has not spoken to me, so we don't have anybody on record. This is conversations that are off record right now. So when you're taking the information, take it with that understanding that this is what I'm offering you. Now, for me, the big change here has been the government deciding to slow down the rollout of E25 petrol, so fuel containing 25% ethanol. Now, officials have reportedly believed that the transition to E20, apparently, according to some reports, and this has been reported across the press, that according to multiple reports, senior government officials have said the center is likely to delay the rollout of E25 because the transition, they believe, to E20 should be more gradual, giving vehicle manufacturers more time to redesign engines, allowing government more time to understand consumer complaints before increasing ethanol further. In other words, while the government continues to overtly insist that E20 is scientifically sound, it also appears to be acknowledging that it is moving too quickly, if not anything else, and it's not going to push the higher blends right now. If this reported recalibration is confirmed, it would represent a significant shift in strategy from inside the government, from accelerating ethanol adoption in a more cautious, perhaps phased effort. So politically, this is very significant because the government up till now has been extremely bullish about this, and it rarely rolls anything back. But this is not a rollback. This is a suggestion that it might slow the pace down in order to let the stakeholders, which are car owners, customers, petrol dealers, automobile manufacturers, allow everybody to come on board and allow everybody else to catch up with the pace of the change. Now, there's one more piece of information that's coming, and this is political gossip out of Delhi, and this is buzz. So at this point, I'm drawing a line on the story, and I'm saying from here onwards, I'm giving you buzz and gossip. So take it with a massive pinch of salt. Now, you know that there is a lot of buzz right now about a cabinet reshuffle in Delhi. When we talk about Dharmendra Pradhan, there's some buzz about the fact that he might be shunted out of the education ministry, to avoid all of the embarrassment that's been created around education and moved into another ministry. The buzz that's coming along with it, that Nitin Gadkari could either be removed or sidelined as well. Now, remember, Nitin Gadkari has held his position in road, highways, and surface transport now since the start of this government. So this is his third term, and he's done quite a stellar job up until this point, when ethanol blending seemed to have damaged his image. Now, again, there is some buzz about the fact that there is a cabinet reshuffle. There's no official indication that he's either being dropped or changed from his ministry. In fact, he continues to announce projects and hold official meetings, and he continues to talk about highways. But there is some gossip coming in that the next cabinet reshuffle could include his name as well. Here's the biggest problem. The ethanol controversy has weakened him politically. He's been one of the strongest advocates of ethanol for years. The E20 rollout was closely associated with him personally, even though it was done by the whole government and it was backed by Hardeep Singh Puri, who's the petroleum minister. Nitin Gadkari is not the petroleum minister, but he sort of owned the ethanol, the ethanol change. And the rollout has attracted all of this public criticism. It has stuck to Gadkari, and not to the petroleum minister, not to the government, but to Gadkari himself. The Congress has repeatedly, of course, brought up the fact that there is a conflict of interest, that Gadkari's family members are sitting on boards of the ethanol companies, and those have not been addressed either. So now the other thing that stands out for Nitin Gadkari is through the course of this entire government's 3 terms, he sort of stood out as a solo individual, and it's sort of an independent power center. He's close to the RSS. He has a reputation for getting projects completed. He had a stellar reputation on highways up till now. It was something that he would talk about in quite an individualistic fashion. He stood aside from government on several points, and there have been points when he has voiced opinions that were different from the main party, which is unusual in the BJP. So he sort of set himself aside, and one wonders if that's actually going to come in his favor or not. But I do want to point out the one important thing, that when the criticism became very strong, the Petroleum Ministry stepped up and supported him. So we saw Hardeep Singh Puri, who's the Petroleum Minister, have a press conference. He addressed it. The Petroleum Ministry itself has addressed it. So one view is that Gadkari could be moved out, but a completely other view is that his administrative performance, particularly in highways and in infrastructure, makes him valuable. And, they're going to continue to keep him because he's India's longest serving road transport minister. And that's important for him. So there's a lot of speculation going around Delhi right now in terms of political circles. But if we boil down all of the information that I presented to you in this video, it comes down to this. As citizens or car owners or vehicle owners or customers, there are different categories in which we are approaching E20 as a challenge, we've not been given enough information. So a lot of people are speculating, and I've always felt that the lacuna of the lack of information allows for speculation, which actually makes the problem a lot worse. As citizens, we need to know how much water is being used, how much pollution is created by ethanol manufacturing, whether it affects our ability to grow food for the country, because food is more important than fuel. As car owners or vehicle owners, we need to know which car is compatible with what amount or what percentage of ethanol and what we are buying and putting into our vehicles. And finally, as citizens, we need to be given a choice. So you have to give us the option of going into the petrol pump and saying, I want 100%, I want 95%, I want 85%, or whatever other you choose to offer. The government's, rollout of ethanol is obviously commendable. They've done it at 5 years before their target. All of those things deserve applause. But taking away the choice of the citizen in a democratic nation is perhaps something that will not fly. Let me know if, from your comments, if you believe that the government is listening to the criticism right now and making changes, or is this something you think is, one of those things that needs to be pushed through in order to see the results?